I had to get some libation. Please forgive me. Hi, welcome. My name is Tamika Collins, and this here is my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for coming and being a part. On these episodes, we are reading the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Follow me on my Facebook page as Tamika Collins. And I haven't said this in a long time. I forgot about this little part. Tamika Collins on my Facebook. Coffee, COFEPH, on my TikTok, which I don't have on my phone at the moment because I be wanting to do these videos, and TikTok, I need some space on my phone. And so I was just like, hey, something got to give. And I'm always on Facebook. So my Facebook channel, my TikTok is Coffee, COFEPH. My Instagram is Coffee Sings, COFEPHSINGS, all one word. Tune in for me. I have Simple Eats is one of my Facebook pages. And then I have, oh my gosh, what's my thing? I think it's called Coffee's Gifts or something like that. I gotta look that up. I forgot. I do a lot of artsy things. I love to sing, even though I don't have a lot of singing stuff up, but that's gonna be changing, hopefully. Just sometimes I just don't have the space, but I need to put in that space and that time, right? Because I appreciate the gifts that God has given me, and I want to share them with the world. I do, or share them with whomever would love to be shared with. I like that. Okay, anyway, we're in Judges, the 8th chapter, and recap. So, recapping chapter 6 and 7, Gideon becomes the judge of the Israelites. He's visited by an angel who tells him that God will show up mighty and he will defeat the Midianites. In chapter 7, with 300 soldiers, it went from 32,000 to 300 soldiers. So God wanted him to show him that, it don't matter how small you are, or how weak you feel, or how irrelevant you feel, you are big in God's eyes. He loves you. He wants you, and he wants to do a mighty work through you so that his glory is glorified, his name is glorified, and everybody gets to know about him, because they will, one way or the other, we will all know him and see his face. Amen. Amen. Getting on chapter 8. Here we go. So Gideon kills Zebah and Zamunda. No, it's Zalmunna. Then the people of Ephraim asked Gideon, "Why have you treated us this way? Why didn't you send for us when you first went out to fight the Midianites?" And they argued heatedly with Gideon. But Gideon replied, "What have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't even the leftover grapes of Ephraim's harvest better than the entire crop of my little clan of Abiezer? God gave you victory over Oreb and Zeb, the commanders of the Midianite army. What have I accomplished compared to that?" When the men of Ephraim heard Gideon's answer, their anger subsided. Gideon then crossed the Jordan River with his 300 men, and though exhausted, they continued to chase the enemy. When they reached Succoth, Gideon asked the leaders of the town, "Please give my warriors some food. They are very tired. I am chasing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the officials of Succoth replied, "Catch Zebah and Zalmunna first, and then we will feed your army." So Gideon said, "After the Lord gives me victory over Zebah and Zalmunna, I will return and tear your flesh with the thorns and briars from the wilderness." Ooh. From there, Gideon went up to Peniel and again asked for food, but he got the same answer. So he said to the people of Peniel, "After I return in victory, I will tear down this tower." By this time, Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with about 15,000 warriors, all that remained of the allied armies of the east, for 120,000 had already been killed. Gideon circled around by the caravan route east of Noba and Jogbeha, taking the Midianite army by surprise. Zebah and Zalmunna, the two Midianite kings, fled, but Gideon chased them down and captured all their hit warriors. After this, Gideon returned from the battle by the way of Harris Pass. There, he captured a young man from Succoth and demanded that he write down the names of all the 77 officials and elders in the town. Gideon then returned to Succoth and said to the leaders, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna. When we were here before, you taunted me, saying, 'Catch Zebah and Zalmunna first, and then we will feed your exhausted army.'" Then Gideon took the elders of the town and taught them a lesson in punishing them with the thorns and briars from the wilderness. He also tore down the tower of Peniel and killed all the men in the town. Then Gideon asked Zebah and Zalmunna, "The men you killed at Tabor, what were they like?" "Like you," they replied. "They all had the look of a king's son." They were my brothers, the sons of my own mother," Gideon exclaimed. "As surely as the Lord lives, I wouldn't kill you if you hadn't killed them." Turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, "Kill them." But Jether did not draw his sword, for he was only a boy and was afraid. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said to Gideon, "Be a man, kill us yourself." So Gideon killed them both and took the royal ornaments from their necks of their camels. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, "Be our ruler. You and your son and your grandson will be our rulers, for you have rescued us from the Midian." But Gideon replied, "I will not rule over you, nor will my son. The Lord will rule over you. However, I do have one request, that each of you give me an earring from the plunder you collected from your fallen enemies." The enemies, being the Ishmaelites, all wore gold earrings. "Gladly," they replied. They spread out a cloak, and each one threw in a gold earring he had gathered from the plunder. The weight of the gold earrings was 43 pounds, not including the royal ornaments and the pendants, the purple clothing worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains around the necks of their camels. Gideon made a sacred ephod from the gold and put it in Ophrah, his hometown. But soon all the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshiping it, and it became a trap for the Gideon and his family. That is the story of how the people of Israel defeated Midian, which never recovered. Throughout the rest of Gideon's lifetime, about 40 years, there was peace in the land. Then Gideon, son of Joash, returned home. He had 70 sons born to him, for he had many wives. He also had a concubine in Shechem, who gave birth to a son, whom they named Abimelech. Gideon died when he was very old, and he was buried in the grave of his father Joash at Ophrah in the land of the clan of Abiezer. As soon as Gideon died, the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshiping the images of Baal, making Baal Berith their god. They forgot the Lord their God, who had rescued them from all the enemies surrounding them, nor did they show any loyalty to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, despite all the good he had done for Israel. Abimelech rules over Shechem. This is chapter 9. One day, Gideon's son Abimelech went to Shechem to visit his uncles, his mother's brothers. He said to them and to the rest of his mother's family, ask the leading citizens of Shechem whether they want to be ruled by all 70 of Gideon's sons or by one man. And remember that I am your own flesh and blood. So Abimelech's father, Abimelech's uncles, gave this message to all the citizens of Shechem on his behalf. And after listening to this proposal, the people of Shechem decided in favor of Abimelech because he was their relative. They gave him 70 silver coins from the temple of Baal Bereth, which he used to hire some reckless troublemakers who agreed to follow him. He went to his father's home of Ophrah, and there, on one stone, they killed all 70 of his half brothers and sons of Gideon. But the youngest brother, Jotham, escaped and hid. Then all the leading cities of Shechem and Beth Millo called a meeting under the oak beside the pillar at Shechem and made Abimelech their king. Mm. Listen to me, citizens of Shechem. Listen to me if you want God to listen to you. Once upon a time, the trees decided to choose a king. First, they said to the olive tree, be our king. But the olive tree refused, saying, should I quit producing the olive oil that blesses both God and people just to wave back and forth over the trees? Then they said to the fig tree, be our king. But the fig tree also refused, saying, should I quit producing my sweet fruit just to wave back and forth over the trees? Then they said to the grapevine, you be our king. But the grapevine also refused, saying, should I quit producing the wine that cheers both God and people just to wave back and forth over the trees? Then all the trees finally turned to the thorn bush and said, come be our king. And the thorn bush replied to the trees, if you truly want me to be your king, come and take shelter in my shade. If not, let fire come out from me and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Jotham continued, now make sure you have acted honorably in good faith by making Abimelech your king, and that you have done right by Gideon and all his descendants. Have you treated him with honor he deserves for all his accomplishments, all he accomplished? For he fought for you and risked his life when he rescued you from the Midianites. But today you have revolted against my father and his descendants, killing his 70 sons on one stone, and you have chosen his slave woman's son, Abimelech, to be your king just because he was your relative. If you have acted honorably and in good faith toward Gideon and his descendants today, then may you find joy in Abimelech, and may he find joy in you. But if you have not acted in good faith, then may fire come out from Abimelech and devour the leading citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo. And may fire come out from the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo and devour Abimelech. Then Jotham escaped and went and lived in Beer because he was afraid of his brother Abimelech. Shechem rebels against Abimelech. Verse 22. After Abimelech had ruled over Israel for 3 years, God sent a spirit that stirred up trouble between Abimelech and the leading citizens of Shechem, and they revolted. God was punishing Abimelech for murdering Gideon's 70 sons, and the citizens of Shechem for supporting him in this treachery of murdering his brothers. The citizens of Shechem set an ambush on Abimelech on the hilltops and robbed everyone who passed that way. But someone warned Abimelech about their plot. One day, Gaal, son of Abed, moved to Shechem with his brothers and gained the confidence of the leading citizens of Shechem. During the annual harvest feast at Shechem, held in the temple of the local god, the wine flowed freely, and everyone began cursing Abimelech. Who is Abimelech? Gaal shouted. He's not a true son of Shechem, so why should we be his servants? He's merely the son of Gideon, and this Zebul is merely his deputy. Serve the true sons of Hamor, the son of Shechem. Why should you serve Abimelech? If I were in charge here, I would get rid of Abimelech. I would say to him, get your soldiers, get some soldiers and come out and fight. But when Zebul, the leader of the city, heard that Gal was speaking, what heard what Gal was saying, he was furious. He sent messengers to Abimelech in Arumah, telling him, Gal, son of Ebed, and his brothers have come to live in Shechem, and now they are inciting the city to rebel against you. Come by night with your army and hide out in the fields. In the morning, as soon as it is daylight, attack the city. When Gal and those who are with him come out against you, you can do with them as you wish. So Abimelech and all his men went by night and split into 4 groups, stationing themselves around Shechem. Gal was standing at the city gates when Abimelech and his army came out of hiding. When Gal saw them, he said to Zebul, look, there are people coming down from the hilltops. Zebul replied, it's just the shadows on the hills that look like men. But again, Gal said, no, people are coming down from the hills, and another group is coming down the road past the diviner's oak. Then Zebul turned on him and asked, now where is that big mouth of yours? Wasn't it you that said, who is Abimelech? And why should we be his servants? The men you mocked are right outside the city. Go and fight them. So Gal led the leading citizens of Shechem into battle against Abimelech. But Abimelech chased him, and many of Shechem's men were wounded and fell along the road as they retreated to the city gate. Abimelech returned to Arumah, and Zebul drove Gal and his brothers out of Shechem. The next day, the people of Shechem went out into the fields to battle. When Abimelech heard about it, he divided his men into 3 groups and set an ambush in the fields. Excuse me. And when Abimelech saw the people coming out of the city, he and his men jumped up from their hiding places and attacked them. Abimelech and his group stormed the city gate to keep the men of Shechem from getting back in, while Abimelech's 2 other groups cut them down in the fields. The battle went on all day before Abimelech finally captured the city. He killed the people, leveled the city, and scattered salt all over the ground. Then the leading citizens who lived there in the tower of Shechem heard what had happened. They ran and hid in the temple of Baal Bereth. Someone reported to Abimelech that the citizens had gathered in the temple, so he led his forces to Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and chopped some branches from a tree and then put them on his shoulder. Quick, do as I have done, he told his men. So each of them cut down some branches, following Abimelech's example. They piled the branches against the walls of the temples and set them on fire. So all the people who had lived in the tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelech attacked the town of Thebez and captured it. But there was a strong tower inside the town, and all the men and women, the entire population, fled into it. They barricaded themselves in and climbed up to the roof of the tower. Abimelech followed them to attack the tower, but as he prepared to set fire to the entrance, a woman on the rooftop dropped a millstone that landed on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. He quickly said to his brothers, to his young armor bearer, draw your sword and kill me. Don't let me be said that a woman killed Abimelech. So the young man ran him through with his sword, and he died. When Abimelech's men saw that he was dead, they disbanded and returned to their homes. In this day, God punished Abimelech for the evil he had done against his father by murdering his 70 sons, his 70 brothers. God also punished the men of Shechem for all their evil. So the curse of Jotham, son of Gideon, was fulfilled. Tell you, boy, I'm telling you, these be some good stories. It's people doing some of the most. But hey, when they doing some of the most happen, and you reap what you sow. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Jesus. Lord. Anywho, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, no, morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime, midnight hour. And we will be back with chapter 10 of Judges. We're moving right along, and we got a little while before we be at the end. I think we got 21 chapters in Judges, and we're on chapter 10, so we got 11 more chapters to go. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Patience, grasshopper. More like a cricket, but either way, it's okay. Anyway, thank you so much for rocking with me. I hope you had a wonderful time. Excuse me for my yawning. But as I like to tell you, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing. Sorry. And I'll see you next time. All right. 2 fingers.